We rarely hear silence anymore. Even when we think we do, late at night, alone in our room, there's always something humming in the background, the buzz of electronics, the distant noise of traffic, the subtle vibration of a phone screen lighting up. True silence has become a rare experience, almost unnatural. We've created a world where silence feels like a void, something awkward, something wrong, something to be filled. But why? Why are we so afraid of silence? Let's start with a basic observation. We live in the noisiest era in human history. And I don't mean just physical noise, cars, machines, conversations. I mean cognitive noise. Notifications, messages, ads, music, podcasts, news, opinions, content. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, our minds are plugged in, stimulated, distracted, fed by a stream of noise so constant we've forgotten what it's like to be alone with ourselves. And maybe that's the point. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the presence of awareness, of space, of self. When everything else falls away, when there's no music, no talking, no scrolling, what remains is you. Your thoughts, your fears, your doubts, your memories, your truth. And that can be terrifying. So we fill the silence. We put on a podcast while we shower. We scroll through memes while waiting in line. We play music just to fall asleep. Not because we want to listen, but because we can't bear the quiet. This is not a small detail. This is a cultural shift, a psychological transformation. We are becoming a species allergic to stillness. But silence matters. Not just aesthetically, but spiritually, psychologically, and philosophically. In silence, we face ourselves. In silence, we slow down enough to see. In silence, we remember that we are not machines. Many great thinkers knew this. Blaise Pascal once wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." He said this in the 17th century. Imagine what he would say now. Nietzsche, too, valued silence, not as emptiness, but as the fertile ground where real thought is born. He withdrew from society frequently, walking alone in the mountains, not to escape the world, but to hear himself think. Because thinking, real thinking, requires space, depth, stillness. It cannot happen while multitasking. It cannot happen while refreshing a feed. And yet, that's how we try to live. We confuse activity with insight, volume with value, presence with performance. Silence has become suspicious. A person who says nothing is seen as shy, awkward, cold. A moment of silence in a conversation is something we rush to fill with words, even meaningless ones, just to avoid the discomfort. But maybe the discomfort isn't in the silence. Maybe it's in us. Because silence reveals what noise hides. Noise protects us from reflection, from confrontation, from grief. It's a buffer, a drug, a way to avoid what we're not ready to face. But the cost of avoiding silence is steep. We lose depth, we lose attention, we lose intimacy with others and with ourselves. Have you noticed how hard it's become to have a conversation without checking your phone? How quickly our minds wander when there's nothing entertaining us? How even relaxation now involves streaming 5 shows at once? We call this freedom. We call this abundance. But what if it's actually a trap? The ancient Stoics believed that wisdom came from inner quiet, from mastering your emotions, from observing without reacting, from silence, not just external, but internal. Today, that inner silence is buried under noise, and it's not by accident. The modern economy thrives on distraction. Your attention is the most valuable commodity in the world. Every second you're silent is a second you're not consuming, not clicking, not buying, not producing. So silence becomes rebellion, a radical act. To be silent today is to resist. Resist the urge to fill every moment. Resist the need to explain yourself constantly. Resist the illusion that busyness equals meaning. It's no coincidence that monks take vows of silence, that mystics retreat into deserts and caves, that artists and thinkers go off the grid to reconnect with what's real. Because something happens in silence, something that doesn't happen anywhere else. Clarity, truth. Stillness doesn't mean passivity. Silence doesn't mean weakness. On the contrary, true silence is powerful. It requires strength to face yourself without distraction, to listen without speaking, to observe without reacting. Think about nature. In a forest, silence isn't emptiness, it's life. You can hear the wind through the trees, the subtle shift of leaves, the distant sound of water. That kind of silence is not absence, it's presence, fullness. Our minds are the same. When we silence the noise, we begin to hear what was always there. Maybe that's why silence scares us. Because it tells the truth. It strips away the masks. It forces us to confront the parts of ourselves we try to keep hidden. But that's also why we need it. We need silence to process grief, to hear our intuition, to recognize our values, to ask the hard questions. Am I really happy? Or just distracted? Silence is not comfortable, but it is honest. And in a world drowning in noise, honesty is a rare and precious thing. So what can we do? We can begin to reclaim silence, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. We can carve out moments in the day where we unplug, where we turn off the noise, not just externally, but internally. We can walk without headphones, eat without a screen, wake up and just sit, even for 5 minutes, not to be productive, not to learn, but to listen, to be. It will feel strange at first, like something is missing, but maybe what's actually missing is us. Because in the silence, we begin to return to ourselves. We begin to remember that we are not defined by our output, or our feed, or our opinions. We are not machines. We are not content. We are not meant to live at full volume all the time. There is wisdom in the quiet. There is peace in the stillness. And there is power in simply stopping to hear what the world is no longer saying. So the next time you're alone, and it's quiet, and you feel the urge to reach for your phone, pause. Don't run from the silence. Step into it. It might just tell you everything you've been trying to remember.